You know that putting your customer at the center of your story as its hero is critical. But for many brands, they have more than one customer. They may have a number of different roles they sell into within an organization. Perhaps they even have different organizations and customer profiles completely for different product lines. All brands need a single, unifying story at their core, regardless of how many personas or customers that they sell to. Even the most complex and all-encompassing enterprise brand needs a single story that binds it together. Crafting that hero will greatly depend on the number of personas your company seeks to reach. In the case of a simple company with one persona, the story is as straightforward as crafting a narrative about that specific title and person who you're seeking to reach inside an organization. More complex organizations, however, need to build psychographic personas or demographic personas that encompass the pain points, the challenges, the psychologies, or the needs of people, even if it cuts across many different roles, titles, or even functions within an organization. The power of an effective brand story is its ability to unify those different personas into a single framework and keep them consistent with one another. In enterprise sales, it's very common that a company may have to interface with 3, 4, perhaps upwards of a dozen different people in an organization before it's able to open and develop a relationship. It's critical that although the needs and roles of those individuals are distinct, that the story that speaks to each of them is unified and consistent. Effective persona-based messaging starts with building your brand strategic story. Examine the 5-part narrative arc that's been discussed in this course. Think about how that applies to the entirety of your customer base. Take your brand's holistic story arc and consider the ways that it applies individually to the different personas that take place within your brand. When a company has multiple personas that it sells to, it needs a way to speak to those individuals in a way that is both unique to them, but also consistent to the overall brand story. It requires a careful balance. A brand that focuses purely on the high-level story that its organization puts out to the world runs the risk of feeling irrelevant or not tailored to the needs of an individual buyer within the organization. On the other hand, brands that create highly tailored and specific persona-based messaging run into the opposite danger. They might be having conversations with 2 people in the organization without either one of them realizing that they're speaking to the same potential partner on the other end of the phone. An effective brand story becomes the framework that binds together persona-based messaging. If you have built your story correctly, it won't speak to any individual product in terms of your broken world, and it should speak to all of your customers from the perspective of the hero at the story center and the way that you guide and empower them. To start building effective persona-based messaging, take the framework and structure that's in your brand story and start to translate it down to each of those individual personas that exist within the organization. If your brand has laid out a high-level broken world that it seeks to solve, consider the way that that applies to the day-to-day of each individual that you're trying to reach within the organization. You can tailor that element of the story in a way that speaks to the individual you're seeking to reach, but is also consistent with the promises that are made in your high-level marketing or in your customer experience that may not be tailored by persona. Your mentorship works the same way. Your brand exists to guide and empower your customer in a way that's laid out in your brand story and comes across in your high-level messaging like on your website. But on a day-to-day basis, the interactions you have with your customers are more specific to that based on who you're partnering with in the organization and what their role is with your product or service. Take that high-level promise that you've made about the experience and translate it into the specific interactions that happen each day. By starting at the high level and translating the daily interactions through the lens of the brand story, you create alignment and consistency across all of your personas. The way that the finance function of your customers experiences your brand, as opposed to how the technical side of your customer experiences your brand, may feel vastly different to them. But when communicated through the lens of the brand story, it allows them to have a shared understanding of the value that your brand provides and helps unify the experience that all of the different personas within your customer base have. Most brands have more than one customer that they're speaking to. They might be different based on products, organizations, geographies, or in the case of an enterprise sale, may even be multiple stakeholders within a single organization. Each of those people are animated by different needs on a daily basis. B2B brands always like to think about their customers as being a completely rational buyer. They know they're selling to other businesses, and they imagine that business evaluating all of its decisions on some kind of matrix that weighs out facts and figures, outcomes, ROI, and reaches the ideal, optimal, rational decision. The truth is, all decisions even in a business, are made by people, which means they're made emotionally. At their core, people are emotional decision makers. We like to think that we make decisions rationally, but we ultimately make decisions that are based on gut, intuition, and feeling, and then we seek out the information that we need to validate those decisions. Speaking to a specific persona within an organization is critical for building that type of emotional connection. Your high-level brand stories should be emotional, but particularly if you're a B2B business, we'll be speaking ultimately to another business. How that story translates to the needs, the desires, the fears of any individual decision maker within the business is why persona-based messaging is so effective. Effective persona-based storytelling uses the empathy that you have for your customer to understand how the story that you've built for your brand translates specifically to the challenges that they face on a daily basis. Consider that each of your customer personas are just a subset of the hero that exists at the center of your story. When you've built the high-level strategic story for your brand to start, translating it through the lens of each persona becomes an easy and simple way for you to take the complexity of your product, the complexity of your service, and translate it individually to each potential customer in a way that resonates and feels tailored to them while maintaining the equity that you've built in the overall brand at large. For most companies, buyer personas are rarely static. As a product or services applications evolve, as the technology grows, it becomes applicable to a wider variety of people. This was the exact challenge faced by PayRange, a payments provider in the economy of convenience. PayRange began its life cycle as a business focused exclusively on providing cashless payments for vending machines. And it built up a terrific business in vending, and then naturally in the laundry space as well, where the pain points for customers were very similar. However, the brand realized that the potential of its technology went far beyond vending machines or laundry payments on any given week. PayRange had the ability to completely upend the way that small, daily convenient payments were made across the entire payments ecosystem. Realizing this potential required two challenges. The first was building a story that spoke beyond the world of vending machines. It required developing a high-level strategic story that painted the possibility of not just vending machines that did not require cash, but an entire economy of convenience fueled by bodegas, convenience stores, corner stores, and all the other small interactions that people have on a daily basis for which cash is king. After developing that high-level story, PayRange then had to bring it back down to a persona-based level. It knew from its past experience exactly how to speak to the vending machine owner and exactly how to speak to the laundromat. How did the high-level story of the economy of convenience translate to the owner of the corner store, maybe the manager of the local bodega, all the different businesses that had the potential to go cashless but couldn't afford the technology that's typically been presented to them by larger, more entrenched payments providers? It's this exact type of challenge where persona-based messaging realizes its potential. All of PayRange's customers are animated by the need to participate in the digital economy. All of them operate businesses that were largely cash-driven and are fueled by large amounts of small payments on a daily basis. Of course, what makes them different is just as significant. The reasons why a vending machine owner puts their machine in a certain building, the ways that they monetize their business, is very different from the local store owner who builds relationships with customers that stop in on a daily basis. All of them deserve the opportunity to participate in a cashless economy. Realizing that potential meant taking the story of the economy of convenience and translating it specifically to the pain points of each customer. For the owner of the vending machine, it's about not losing revenue. They see the person who walks up to their machine on any given day, reaches into their pocket for a dollar bill, and when they don't find it, turns around and goes back to their office. The economy of convenience for the vending machine owner costs them revenue, it costs them opportunity. In the case of the owner of that local convenience store, it's a much more personal and tangible connection. It's the customer who walks up and has to find assorted other goods to reach a credit card minimum. It's the person who looks the owner in the eye and puts merchandise back on the counter because they don't have the cash for a sale. In the case of the food cart owner, it's food discarded and a sale lost when they have to tell their potential customer that they don't take cards. The ways that each of these personas feel their pain point and feel the PayRange story on a daily basis are as distinct and as different as their businesses are. At the high level, however, all of these brands are unified by the same core story that defines who PayRange is, why they matter. You land on the PayRange website, it speaks to that high-level story, no matter which part of the economy of convenience you're participating in. Customers and potential customers are then invited to go deeper, learn more about the specific opportunities that are available to them, all of which are consistent with the promise that's made from the first moment someone's exposed to the brand. The power of persona-based messaging is not that the food cart owner, the convenience store owner, or the vending machine manager hears a different story. The power is that they hear the same story translated to the specific pain points and opportunities that exist within their business. The power of persona-based messaging is to create variations of your brand story that are unified behind the way that your organization is seeking to transform the world, yet feel as personal and relevant to your customers as something that was crafted specifically for them.